Okay then, welcome back to another lesson with yourself, Mr. D. I'm very aware I'm in desperate need of a haircut. And I'd like to point out that the previous videos, the Viking one, the division, and the tips for literacy, the microphone wasn't working too well, so it's rather quiet. You can just about hear it if you put your ears close or get some headphones and sit in a quiet room, but you should be able to read the slides yourself and get the gist of what I'm saying. If it is too tricky to understand, give me a buzz on DB Primary or join in on the Zoom sessions, but I think you will be okay. Today we may or may not have seen some of these. I put them on at the beginning of the lockdown for you to go and have a look at, but I thought we'd go through and teach it and I can explain some of the things that they talk about. So we'll do a bit of science today, and the science we're looking at is light. And I know that if you've been following any of my other videos, I look at light when we look at rainbows, and we might get into the spectrum of light later down the line. So I thought I'd start off by just doing this. Can't see me, then all of a sudden you can see me. What is it about covering the camera that means that you can't see anymore? What is it about closing your eyes that means you can't see? What is it about the darkness that means we can't see? Well, I'll let you into a little bit of a clue. It's all got to do with this word light and how our eyes, or how the camera, or whatever you're viewing from, uses light in order to see. So that is what we'll be looking at over the next couple of weeks in science, light and dark. Maybe have a little time now to pause the video and make yourself a little poster about light and dark, so you can keep all this work nice and organized. You can go and do that now. But we will carry on. A couple of things that we'll look at today is we're going to explain that we need light in order to see things. That's one of the most important ideas to get your head around. Your eyes aren't magic and they can't produce light, and you don't see out of your eyes. It's a weird thing to think about. Your eyes use the light from a light source, and that light shines into your eyes, and it's the special nerves inside the eye and the brain that create the image. So your eyes aren't a magical camera that can just see things. Cameras and eyes don't produce the images. The images are made from light. We're going to look at a range of different light sources today, and then we're going to explain that darkness is the absence of light, and that without light it wouldn't be possible to see anything. It's the most important thing. So first of all, what is light? You may ask yourself, what is light? Ting, you see the light coming on. Let there be light. Can you name some things that give out light? I can think of the sun, I can think of the light bulb, I can think of the backlight of my screen, a torch, the light on my phone. Any other examples of light can you think of? How does light help us see? Now that's a funny one. We will look at that. How does it help us see? What does the light do? What is the dark? How do mirrors work? What is a reflection? How do we make shadows? This is all the things that we will talk about during this unit. So these are just some of the questions that we are going to answer. So keep in mind some of these questions. Whether you know them already is fantastic. Maybe make a note of the things you do know, or maybe some of the things that you need to find out. Whoa, far too far. Okay. So this leads on to your first task is, what is light? What do we already know about light? So I'd like to make a little mind map about some of the facts that we already know. This will help you sort out the things that you do know, the things that you need to find out. So here is the example of a mind map that you could do. Put light in the middle and then all different things about light that you know already. You could put this onto your front cover as well if you wanted to. Questions that you might have: how do we see things? What is the darkness? How do you make shadows? What's the reflection? Why do people need sunglasses? What things make light? Should hopefully answer that question today. And any other questions that you could put here that might need answering at the end of the topic as well. Super. So I'm going to put some light sources. We would play this as a game, as a task, but you can't do that because we're at home. So I'm going to show you some different cards and they've got different things on. And you've got to decide whether you think it's a light source, a source of light, something that gives out light, or whether it's not a light source, and try and explain your reasoning behind it. The sorting cards are here. So you've got candle, is that a light source? Flowers, are they light sources? They're very colourful. Boots, fire, a football, a lantern, lightning, a scooter, television, is that a light source? The sun. Remember to pause the video if I'm going too fast. Dogs, do they have light sources? Think about maybe if you've ever seen a cat or a dog in the night in their eyes. Is that a light source? Bucket, lamp, apple, ice cream, the moon, a firework. Any others that we haven't seen? An eye, is that a light source? When our eyes sparkle, diamonds, are they light sources when they sparkle? And the laptop, the camera, does that have a light source? I think some cameras do have a light source, but a mirror or a window. Have a go and see if you can think about some of the things that I've talked about and see whether you think they're light sources or not. Remember to pause the video or go back through if you want to see some of the pictures again. So there were some tricky ones in there. We'll go back through some of them. So things like a laptop. Laptops do have a backlight in them, so they can give out light to help you see, to help illuminate. That's another word for light up the screen. So laptops, computers, TVs, they do have a light source in them. An LED computer is lots of tiny little bulbs to create a picture. The camera one as well, the camera itself isn't a light source, but some cameras have a flash on them, don't they? That produces a bright flash of light to help the camera see the picture. So the camera can't pick up the picture unless there is enough light, and if there isn't enough light, some cameras have a flash on them to create that light. Diamonds, although they sparkle, they don't produce any light. If you had a diamond on its own, it's not going to illuminate, it's not going to create any light. The same with the eye. Sunglasses, definitely not a light. Some of them are obvious spanners, they're not light sources, even though they might be shiny. Come back to the moon. Fireworks, yes, they have fire in them, and when they blow up in the sky, they have special powder and chemicals in them that create lots of colourful light. The torch, easily, that's a light source as much as a lamp is. Apple, ice cream, buckets, they're not light sources. Pencils, no light sources. Dogs, yeah, they have shiny eyes in the night, but that's not because they have a light source, that's because of a different thing, and we might explain that another time. The sun, is that a light source? Absolutely, that's one of our main light sources in the whole of planet Earth. Toothpaste, ice cream, no. Lightning, yes, a short burst of light, but a light source nevertheless. A fire and a candle. The first forms of light other than the sun that man created. pause the video there, and we'll go through the next bit in a bit. So let us carry on. We've looked at different light sources, and hopefully it's fairly obvious the things that are light sources and things that aren't light sources. However, how do we see these things if they're not a light source? Let's go through some tricky ones that came up in the sorting pack. I think the moon looks like a light source, doesn't it? At the night, you can see it beaming in the night, a big white circle, or half moon or crescent moon, depending on the time of the month. A light source or not, it appears to look like a light source, but it's actually not. If you imagine that this little white ball is the moon. Oh, I need to, dropped it. I need probably more fingers than I have. And this little is the tinfoil is the Earth, and this is the moon. The moon goes around the Earth, and imagine my head is the sun. I am a light source. I can give out, the sun can give out light, but the moon doesn't give out light. What the moon does is it takes the light from the sun and reflects it back onto the Earth. It doesn't actually have any light source itself. It reflects the light off the sun. These mirrors, you can see these, not mirrors, these windows, they look like light sources, but they're not creating any light. What they're doing is letting the light in. They're transparent, so they let the light in. And the mirror, the special type of glass that helps you see yourself, again, it's reflecting the light from another source, either the sun or a light bulb in your house. Again, we can't see the moon in the daylight. That's one reason why the moon isn't a light source, because it doesn't make its own light. A light source has to be able to make its own light. The moon does not. It reflects light from the sun. It bounces it off and then back onto the Earth, and that's how we see the moon. The window is not a light source either. It's transparent. It's just an opening. It lets the light into the room, but it's still getting its light from the sun, or mainly the sun if it's an outside window. And the mirror is not a light. It's reflecting the light from another source, like we said. So then you've got light, and the opposite of light is dark. And what is the darkness? What is that when you can't see anything? Or when you close your eyes, what is that darkness while you turn all the lights off? Even when you turn all the lights off, is it truly, truly dark? What is true darkness? So scientists describe dark as the absence. That means when things are absent, they're not there. Absence of light. So if there's no light, then you have darkness. If there's no light from a light source, the thing that you're in, the room, the place, will be dark. Think about the darkest place that you've been. For me, it was a cave when I went caving once. We had head torches. They were our light sources, but deep underground, no light could get there without the head torches. So once everybody switched theirs off, it was complete darkness. What's the darkest place you've been to? And then think about this question, can you see in the dark? I know that when I was in pitch black, I couldn't see an absolute thing. But sometimes when all the lights are off, we can still see some things. So what is happening there? This is a game that we can't play, but you might be able to think about playing at home if you want to, is get a bag or a sock and put some things in there, and then get a friend, mum, dad, brother, sister, to have a feel in the bag and try and guess what it is. Pretty tricky to guess what something is when you can't see it. Kind of get that feel without light. The bag is completely dark, it has no light in it. It's impossible to work out what it is. So have a go if you can see you can guess what's in the bag of darkness without using your eyes. I guess it was probably hard to do that. It's much easier if we use our eyes to see, but we need the light to be able to do that, don't we? In the darkness of the bag, you can't see anything. You need to take it out of the bag so that light can shine onto it. So what happens when you take things out of that bag when we're looking at anything, an object, let's say when we're looking at this rainbow here, what's happening? How can I see this rainbow? It's not a light source, it's not creating any light. My eyes aren't a light source, they're not creating any light. So how do I see this image? How do I see the things around me? Well, what happens is the light source from the sun in the sky, can't see the sun today, it's a bit overcast, but the light rays are going through the clouds, into the atmosphere, through my window here, into my room, and those rays are bouncing off all the objects, including this rainbow here. And the rays bounce off the rainbow, and some of those rays bounce into my eye. And my eye is very special because it can filter out all the rays and create an image of what I'm seeing. Sounds really, really complicated, and it is really, really complicated, but all you have to remember is the idea of we need the light in order to see, and that light bounces off objects, illuminating them. So that means it hits the object and bounces off, and that ray then hits our eye, and our optic nerve and our brain work together to use the light rays to create the image. So that's a very, very basic explanation of how we use light in order to see things. What you guys again have to remember is that what a light source is, so things that create their own light, and that it's without light, you have darkness, and you can't see in the dark because there is no light. The light is used to bounce off objects and illuminate them, and then those illuminated objects reflect into our eyes, and our eyes are then able to create the image of what we can see. So your task now is a bit of writing with some useful clues here. So just write a bit about what we've done today, a bit about light and dark, light sources, and how we see. I'll show those to you now, and you can copy those into your book. So just a few sentences to be able to explain how we see things and that we need light in order to do that, and that dark is the absence of light. You've got to fill in the gaps here with these keywords: light, dark, night. Don't come in. Just last one. Let's get these. Good girl. Light, dark, night, bag, television, sun, sea, and light. And then you can pause the video there to copy out these sentences into your first page of your light and dark section. Again, go and research a bit more about light and dark. I'm sure you guys have got loads of books. Use those non-fiction skills. And I'll see you next lesson to do some more about light and dark. See you later. Bye-bye.